guys. Welcome back to 3H Podcast. This is the third episode that we've done so far. Hope you guys have enjoyed or listened to or liked some of the content for the first two. The first two episodes were really kind of introductory, getting to know us, the shop. Then we brought Joe in. The second one, basically introducing. This is really the first podcast we're going to really jump into today, discussing topics, gear, things we like to do. And today we are all about predator calling, predator hunting, predator calling, predator hunting gear. So we figured it was pretty appropriate given the time of year. We're kind of in that hunting season lull. Deer season is winding down. Turkey season is not quite here. Even though predator calling is kind of year-round for a lot of people, for me, I like to predator call year-round. Deer season's in full swing. I'm not predator calling. Turkey season's in full swing, but late summer, early fall, early winter, I'm predator calling lots of times out of the year. But this is probably the bulk and majority of the time people are calling.
Well, this is prime time, too.
Yeah. Mating season's just right around the corner. Yep. Pup dispersals act. And that's something we'll get into a little bit later, too. But people think about pup dispersal, and they think that, that happens, late summer, early fall. And it does some, but this is the big pup dispersal right now. They're the ones right now getting drove off from mama before she rebreeds. And it's a really I just killed a very young male yesterday morning. Called one in, young male. This was probably his first breeding season, and he was very unwise of the ways of the world. So it's a prime time right now to catch him away from mama and call him in. So, but yeah, just wanted to get on here today and talk all things predator calling. Not only highlight some things we have at the shop and things we use, but just talking predator calling in general. So, yeah, I think it's one of those things that, as gear and technology has increased, has gotten more popular over the last few years, don't you?
Oh, definitely. We probably sold more thermals and suppressors lately for predator hunting specifically than any other hunting season out there.
Oh, I agree.
It's just gotten real big, and plus, it's something that's more enjoyable. You're not sitting in a tree stand for hours by yourself waiting on.
Just by this time of year, nobody's wanting to sit 2 hours in a tree stand.
Exactly.
Everybody's burning out.
At 10 degrees, like it is today. But like I said, it's something you can do. Like me and you normally do it together, or we have select few other buddies that we do it together, and it's something you can enjoy.
Yeah.
Doing, and it's something you do a 30-minute set, and then you get up and go somewhere else. You know what I mean? So you're not sitting there for hours doing the same thing, hoping something comes by. That's the kind of hunting I enjoy. It's something that I can actually make stuff happen.
Yeah.
Like elk hunting and coyote calling, turkey hunting, duck hunting, stuff like that. I've literally killed my first deer when I was 6 and done it my whole life. But it's not my favorite thing.
Right.
I do it because I enjoy the meat. You know what I mean? It's
not
my favorite thing to do.
It's a great thing to get in, like you were just saying. It get your kids involved into. Mm-hmm. If a kid becomes a proficient shooter, harvesting coyotes, predator calling, killing deer ain't gonna be
nothing.
A piece of cake. Yeah, and then again, a lot of buddies we have, we may not all get together and deer hunt all season long. Everybody's got their own places and things going on, and it's harder to do, but we all get together and predator call. Definitely a lot more able to share with friends and go with your buddies and that more than it is deer hunting for sure. Plus, if you're doing it on the places you're deer hunting, you're just helping your deer, especially now.
Predators are the number one cause of turkey hunting population declines. You know what I mean? We're talking specifically about predator hunting, but varmints, that's just something that comes with the territory too. When you're out there coyote calling or bobcat calling, whatever you're calling for, obviously we're going to shoot all the varmints we see, like coons and all that stuff, which coons are the number one.
Oh yeah,
nest predator. Coons and possums and skunks tear up.
Nest predation is that's probably worse than actually poult predation because they're not even out of the nest yet. They don't even have a chance.
Yep, exactly.
Definitely prime time. There was just a local tournament this weekend. Hope everybody that took part in that had good success, had a good time. It was a good weekend. A little windy yesterday, but kind of just want to start into how we got started predator calling and why we started predator calling. For me, it's kind of like you talking about deer hunting. My dad was a professional trapper. He was he had another full-time job as well too, but he ran a water trap line in the 80s, early 90s, mid-90s, growing up my whole life. That's how he helped pay off their land, their house. It was a significant income then. But you can't run hardly a water trapping line, and a land trapping line, trapping coyotes really at the same time, just not enough hours in the day. So he would run water trapping lines. That's where the money was. And we'd predator call in the evenings to try to add some coyote fur. I remember going with him, man, before I was even carrying a gun. I'd just sit beside him and watch, you know. It's crazy to think about what we did then versus now. I remember he had a Johnny Stewart collar that was on a tape. You had tapes.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, I had one of those too.
Yep, and you had to unroll this cord and roll this wire out and put the speaker out there.
Sure
We've literally called coyotes in that ran between us and the speaker and tripped over the wire running through. I mean, that's insane for people to think about now, but that happened, man. We'd have to make sure the tape was completely rewound before we started the next stand, or you'd be sitting there calling, all of a sudden your tape would go dead, and you'd have to pop it open and flip it around, flip it over. Dude, archaic, you know. But hey, I remember we had the same tape. And Dad bought another one, and we had 2 tapes. We thought we were uptown. Like in the middle of the set, he'd pop it out and put another one in. If we needed a different sound, we thought we were, cooking. But it's crazy to think what, we've got remote collars now with Bluetooth. Fox Pro just released a brand new speaker that plays 2 sounds at one time. You can play one sound off of one speaker, one off of another, do different directions with a remote. I mean, it's crazy. But so that's how I got started predator calling, and I really remember predator calling even before I remember deer hunting seriously. So I've been doing it my whole life and just enjoying it. I really like it. I enjoy deer hunting, love to turkey hunt, but predator calling I enjoy it. It's just a lot of fun to me, and I just grew up doing it, and it does have some nostalgia, but it's changed a lot over the years, and in a good way. Definitely more successful per time going out now. Of course, night hunting's become extremely popular now with the advent of thermal. Me and Dad didn't do a whole lot of night hunting until later in years, till, really game laws laxed over that. Used to, night hunting for predators was just, when I was young, let's say real young, elementary school, middle school, it was just illegal, you couldn't even do it.
Yeah.
As it got better, we tried everything from white lights to green lights to red lights. I'm not saying there's going to be I'm going to say some things on this podcast. People are going to be like, oh, I've done this and that. And I believe them, I believe them 100%. But I'm just speaking from experience of what's worked and done for me. White light and red light has been the most successful. We've had a lot of coyotes booger on a green light. I don't know if it was just the circumstances or what, but I've actually had less coyotes hang up, not come in on a white light than I have a green light. And I'm not really sure why. But I still run a red headlamp to this day sometimes, and if we're calling at night and I've got a buddy with a thermal scanner, I'll just have my red headlamp on and I'll scan looking for eyes, back and forth. I can scan pretty quick. If I see eyes, I'm nudging my buddy. He's over there looking, identifying it. Not saying, it's probably not the most efficient way, but I just grew up doing it. That's what I'm used to doing, Killed a ton of coyotes under a red light, but absolutely no doubt thermal's been a game changer for sure. Yeah. Well, animal ID, I think I can still find animals and find eyes, find coyotes probably quicker than a guy that's standing next to me with a thermal scanner, but he's going to be able to tell exactly what that is 3 times faster than I can.
Well, it's the beam of light, you know what I mean? Especially at a distance, you're covering a big area with a beam of light that can reflect eyes versus a screen that you're looking through with a thermal, you know. But I definitely understand that that's faster, and it's definitely has its benefits. I used to run. Obviously, we started with the red lens on a spotlight, back in the day and stuff like that, and then I ended up moving to Streamlight, made the TLR1 game spotter with the green light, and I killed a bunch of stuff over that. We didn't run into a whole lot of issues with the green light, or never did, but we killed just as many under that green light. And the nice thing about it is it was attached to your firearm. You know what I mean? So you didn't have to try to hold it, which normally, I hunted with Caleb once I got older most of the time, and he would be running the red spotlight and spot them, and then I'd kick my green light on and then shoot them.
You can definitely see better with green light.
You can definitely see better with green light.
So the only reason why I'm even bringing up the light thing right now is that I know it's kind of archaic, but I just want people to realize and know, like, if you can't afford thermal right now, you can still hunt coyotes at night.
Oh yeah, the TLR1 game spotter is like $150, and I've killed. Or you can go buy one of those yellow. Is it a Duracell or whatever? The yellow handheld spotlights from Walmart for like $50.
My suggestion would be, if you don't have the money for thermal, which we understand, it's pricey, and you want to get into calling at night, I'd look into Wicked Lights, or Sniper Hog Lights. I have both, and I think they're both equally as good. Yep. There you can get into that whole setup for about $250. Still not dirt cheap, but about $250. You can get a good weapon mounted gun light and a good red scan light. Red, green. They actually make them now. They're 3 different colors: white, green, red. Yep. Awesome. You can do whatever you want. You can definitely see better at night with green. Red, I've just had less animals booger with it. But here's some pro tips on running nights at a light. This is a lot of years of trial and error here. Used to think, try to get away with running as little light as possible. We know we turn the headlight on and we keep it dim. We just barely even see anything. It was just almost a waste of time. Over the years, I've found when you sit down on a stand, before you turn the collar on, you turn that headlamp on, and you turn it on as bright as possible. Just turn it all the way up. The key to calling coyotes with under the light and not having them booger is, as soon as you see that coyote, identifying them quick, keep that light directly on them,
take it off
and right on their eyes. Yep. If I'm running lights, my favorite way to hunt is actually with 2 guys, 1 guy dedicated to running the collar and a light, and 2 guys shooting. Yep. And I'll stand up with 2 guys sitting like on a stool in front of me, and I'll stand right in between them, and I'll be doing nothing but scanning, running the collar. We see a coyote, that light's right on his eyes the whole time, and you're almost blinding them. But it's what you're doing is you're almost blinding them to the point. It's like when you're looking in the sun, you can't really see anything projecting, between you and the sun, because you're just almost blinded. Same principle.
Yep.
Now, the moment you take that off, or you turn that off and try to turn a gun light on, I'm not saying it will booger them. I've done it a lot, but that's generally when you're going to have problems. Yeah. Absolutely, thermal's a game changer. Absolutely, if you can afford it, thermal's the way to go. But if you can't, don't think that you're just completely out of the game. You can't even go.
Yeah, and one thing we haven't talked about or mentioned yet, in between the light and the thermal is IR. IR is very affordable.
Absolutely.
You can get into a good IR from anywhere from $300 to $600.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And I ran one of those.
Me
that
too.
was my next step up.
Yep.
I ran the Sightmark Wraith.
Yep.
Yep.
They have a 4K version now that's even clearer than what we were running then, and they have a 4K mini that's literally the size of slightly bigger than a tube-style red dot.
Yeah. And honestly, I think as far as identifying targets, it's probably easier.
It probably is.
With an IR and better, because you can tell the body design a little better. But the downfall is that you are actually shining a beam of light that you can't see.
Yep.
And it will reflect off anything that's in front of you. So if you have tall grass, or if you're underneath a tree, or you got bushes or whatever it is, it reflects back off that, and you can't see nothing past it.
Yep.
Versus the thermal, you can see through it. So there's benefits to both, to all of them, really.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I've got a buddy that I hunt with right now that runs a thermal scanner and has an IR scope. Works pretty good, because by the time he scans and finds them, he's got an IR scope to shoot with. He wants to upgrade to a thermal scope, but right now that's what he's got. Still works really well.
Oh, yeah. I almost would say that might even work better sometimes, as far as, which, granted, where we hunt, we're not in Texas trying to shoot 600 yards or wherever where there's open fields. 95% of the time we're under 300 yards.
Oh, man. I shot a coyote.
Most of the time under 200 yards.
Shot a coyote yesterday morning. I think it was 148. Me and Johnny stepped it off. We kind of as guesstimate 148. That's the farthest coyote I've killed in a while, to be honest with you. Most of the time. But my hunting style is probably a little different than other people's too, to be honest with you. Yeah. I like to crowd the cover on the coyote, especially, and I killed that coyote in the daylight yesterday morning. So that's another thing we'll get into, day versus night hunting. My setup is going to be totally different,
Oh, yeah.
But night hunting, they're already out in those areas. They're already out in those fields. They're already out and about. You can get away with setting up bigger, wider, open spaces, and coyotes are generally filtering through past you, or at least around. Yesterday morning at daylight, it was just as cold as it is here now, a little bit of wind, and we were calling it a cedar break, and I knew in order to get one, even remotely interested, we'd have to be in there tight. I'd set up a lot tighter yesterday morning than I would calling at night, for sure. Yeah. But Yeah, we're not shooting great distances.
No. Well, when I first started, actually a guy named Sid Autry is one of my dad's good buddies. He took me. I was probably anywhere from 10 to 12 years old. I don't remember exactly, but same thing. Had the old tape recording collars and stuff like that, and doing it during the daytime. Had to roll out the cord with one speaker that we wired into, and then I think after that, you know, I was so poor back then. I think I built my own out of a little tape player, and then rigged up a cord to a speaker. You know what I mean? I actually built my own back then just to get into it. Like I said, because we just didn't have the money to buy stuff like that. And man, I remember calling a few times on my own and getting into it. But probably, you know, when I turned 16, because my dad wasn't super big into it. Probably when I turned 16 and started driving is when I really got into it. And I think I bought my first Fox Pro when I was probably 18 years old and started using the Fox Pro. Inferno, I think is what I got. And man, it's definitely a game changer. You know, like you was talking about earlier, for a long time we couldn't hunt at night, and then they come up with a depredation permit, which me and Caleb had a depredation permit for seemed like half of Yale County.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then now what I think it was about 2 years ago, the Game and Fish come out with a PCP permit, Predator Control Permit. So the Arkansas Game and Fish allows you to just select that, and if you're on private land, then you cannot hunt for predators. Okay, not public land, but you can on all private land. So they've made it a lot easier, and I think they've come to realize that how much predator hunting matters and varmint hunting matters to turkey and deer populations. You know what I mean? You can't really be a conservationist for turkey and deer hunter and not predator hunt. You're not doing your part. You know what I mean?
And we keep talking about turkeys, and that's just because I think they're the most vulnerable.
They are
delicate. But I think people, and I think a lot of people realize this too, but I think a lot of people would be shocked at the amount of fawns coyotes eat.
Well, I was deer hunting the other day, bow hunting, and I had multiple deer out in front of me, and there was 2 yearlings, and like I said, they're full grown. They're not spots or nothing, and a coyote come out of the woods and chase them. You know what I mean? Middle of the day.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, when they're hungry, they're going to get whatever they can get.
Yep.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he didn't catch them because I whistled him to me. But
Now, granted, we got plenty of deer, and you know, are the coyotes affecting our deer population? Some, but you know, we're at the point now. Thankfully, we've got plenty of deer, and they're probably just kind of keeping the population in check. However, you know, all it takes is a couple summers with blue tongue, maybe a CWD pop up somewhere here or there, hurting your deer population, and then the coyotes on top of that. They can put a hurting on them pretty quick.
Yep.
So night hunting is getting more and more popular. I think nowadays when people think of predator calling, they think of going out after dark at night. When we grew up, it was, you go first few hours of daylight, and we'd wait all day to go back the last couple hours of right before dark. I've called some midday coyotes before, right in the middle of the day. It's rare around here. I've called some midday coyotes out west and had some good success out there, but not saying you can't do it around here. Again, there's going to be people that are like, oh, I've done it. I believe them. I'm talking about, from an efficiency, percentage standpoint, it's pretty tough midday around here. But
I agree, but I think there ain't no different than deer, based on the moon phase and everything else. Sometimes they're more active during the middle of the day. I mean, and I've called in the morning and evening and not called a single thing in before, and then go back to the same farm. Like my dad will be working on the farm, and then he'll be like, "Hey, I seen coyotes all day. I don't know what you're doing." I'm like, "Well, I hunted there that morning."
Here, I think this is the difference right here. I don't think we get enough severe weather around here to put pressure on them enough year round in the winter to make them do that around here. Yeah. Out west, all the time. When that moon's up overhead in the middle of the day and it's 20 degrees for a high, they're on their feet hunting. Out here, if it may be middle of January sometimes, that moon's overhead, prime time for moving, but it's 60 degrees for a high that day. They're just going to lay up. That happens a lot around here. I think that's the main difference. You know what I mean? Now, the last couple of weeks,
oh yeah, they're moving.
It's been rough around here, and they've been moving. Your dad's been talking about seeing coyotes in the middle of the day for 2 weeks. We've got the last quarter moon coming up. Morning activities should be prime, so I'm sure he's been seeing them all day long. Especially they got to hustle more. There's calories in versus calories out. You know, they've got to do the same thing. But
well, and you know, we've been talking a lot since we're on the farmer subject. We've been talking a lot about you know, deer and turkeys and everything else. But how many farmers do we predator call for to keep them from eating their cattle? You know what I mean? I mean, they are the worst, especially this time of year. You know, a lot of people have calves that are hitting the ground like crazy right now, and the coyotes are just waiting. It's like a dinner bell.
Exactly,
you know what I mean?
and you know, even though those coyotes may not be actually killing some calves, being constantly around those cattle puts stress on them.
Absolutely.
This time of year, and then that stress affects your weight gains on your cattle. It affects them, even though they may not be physically killing a lot of them, and they do sometimes.
They do.
Yeah,
they do.
But it still stresses them.
Especially you get a new mama like a heifer that you know, ain't really taking care of her baby and leaves her by herself. They will absolutely get them.
The only thing worse, and if I've got a property owner that lets me hunt, you know him, we know him. The only thing worse than young calves on the ground are sheep on the ground. They will absolutely demolish a sheep population.
Sheep farmers got it bad. They love sheep.
Yep, and they're about helpless. Those sheep are. Yeah, and it is unreal how coyotes will just decimate them. I mean, and they'll it's just like a hawk following a coop of chickens. They'll just come back night after night after night.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's wild. They're efficient hunters, man. You know, we're talking about predator calling and talking about killing coyotes and killing predators in general. You know, I probably have a weird relationship with them than everybody else. I admire them. I really like them. I mean, I think they're awesome animals. Don't get me wrong. I shoot every one of them I get a chance to. But, you know, I know people that don't hunt or don't predator call or maybe not be – that's probably a weird statement to hear. I shoot all of them that I can, but I still like them. I think they're amazing. I mean, I think they're the most adaptable animal in North America by far. You know, anything you throw at them, they can figure out a way to still survive and thrive, you know, whatever. They're living out west where they ain't seen a human their whole life, or they're living right here on the edge of the city their whole life where they're dumpster diving every night.
Them in the city.
In the city, yeah. I mean, they're a very adaptable animal, which makes them harder to even hunt sometimes, you know.
Well, it's just like, I always go back to Steven Ranella was interviewing this guy that owned a pig farm, or not a pig farm, but he owned a bunch of land in Texas, and there was pigs everywhere. He's down there pig hunting. He's like, you know, I talked to a bunch of guys that say they absolutely can't stand pigs and hate pigs. And he's like, if you could push the magic button and not have any more pigs at all, would you do it? And they're like, well, I don't know about that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I kind of like them.
That's
You know,
how I feel.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They do tear stuff up, and they are a nuisance just like coyotes.
Yeah.
But I think as hunters, you know, we still enjoy them, you know what I mean? Yeah, they're bad for the environment, you know, as far as the turkey population, deer population, but they have their place. And it's just you know, something that.
And I mean, talking about from an ecological standpoint, I mean, they are definitely the balance on the rodent population and control, you know. Granted, we've got plenty of coyotes, too many to do that, and cats, you know, same way.
That's what I was about to say. I've honestly killed more bobcats recently than I have coyotes.
Really?
Yeah, the bobcats. I feel like the bobcat population is the worst it's ever been.
Yeah.
And because you used to, man, I remember growing up, I never ever seen a bobcat during the day, like just randomly during the day. You never seen them, and now I have seen them multiple times. Even when not hunting, I've seen them, and that's rare because they're normally a very sly, very hidden animal. You know, they don't want to be seen. They're going to be, you know, very timid. Yep. But I've called in and seen more bobcats in the last 3-4 years than I've ever seen in my life. I mean, it's been crazy.
Yeah. Bobcats, coyotes, even the gray fox in the areas I'm calling have really exploded. Really red fox are still really having a hard time. You know, I run, but people don't know I run a trap line often. Did have a professional trapping company. I trap a lot of land animals. Every red fox I used to catch, I turn back out. Them suckers they're about like the turkeys, you know. Beautiful, beautiful animals, but they're fragile, you know, and coyotes will kill every single one of them. And they can't go up a tree like a gray fox. So coyotes will literally, they find a red fox. And generally, too, red foxes are most of the time on their own, alone. They only really pair up to mate, and then they're loners again. Well, coyotes, you know, they're usually always at least – you have a loner here and there, but they're generally always at least paired up, if not 3 or 4. They find a red fox, they'll chase it all night till they kill it. And if it goes in a den, I've literally witnessed it with my own eyes in Illinois turkey hunting before. They will dig it out. They'll take turns digging the den out until they just get to it and kill it.
Well, and you know, for me personally, I have seen a few gray foxes in the wild, but every single red fox that I've seen has been by man-made features.
Really?
Because
Yep.
they're so scared. Like
Yep.
they have so many predators like coyotes and bobcats and
Yep.
everything else that'll
They're
kill
finding
them.
refuge.
They try to get closer to people.
That's a good point.
That way they can stay hidden and stay away from things. Because I've seen two red foxes in my life, and both of them have been within probably 300 yards of a man-made
Yep.
building.
Again, though, we're going back to that's that canine adaptability, man.
It is.
And they will find a way to survive.
Yep.
I've called in my entire lifetime. I've called a ton, and I've called 2 red foxes in my entire life, and both of them are down here in the River Valley. So I think here in Arkansas, a stronghold still left for the red fox, if there is some, or down South Arkansas and right around this area.
Yeah.
I think there's still some. They really like cutovers and thickets, like stuff a bobcat can barely go through. Gray foxes, red foxes love it. I've called 2 in those situations, and that was it. I've trapped a bunch, and I've turned every one of them I've trapped back out. But I've trapped a bunch, but I say a bunch, probably, I don't know, 2 dozen or so. So it's really not that many, but in comparison, though, I've probably trapped over 200 gray foxes. You know what I mean? So big difference.
I shot at a gray fox once. I was deer hunting, and he come walking up, and I was like, I'm not gonna shoot him. You know what I mean? And then he come over there. I was hunting this scrape line, and he went over there and pissed in one of the scrapes, and I was like, "You sorry sucker!" So then I drew back, and of course, they're 6 inches wide, and he was about 35 yards, and I let it sling, and it looked like it was close to him, but I didn't hit him.
Yeah.
But yeah, those things, I was like, "You sorry sucker! I'm over here trying to deer hunt, and you're over here pissing in my scrapes."
If you put a trail camera up on a scrape, and we're getting off topic here, but that's fine. Let's talk about it. It's unreal the amount of predators that will pee in it every single time they come through. Coyote every time. Gray fox, I don't know what it is, but gray fox every time. If I have a trap line out and I make what's called a flat set, which basically just absolutely looks like nothing there but a trap buried, and it may be just one random tuft of grass. If I put some fox urine there, every single deer that walks by that will check it out, along with so there's some interconnectedness that they really like to investigate each other out. I don't know what it is.
They say peas pee,
I know, that's what I think.
I've peed in scrapes personally, and deer come and smell it,
I don't know if I believe that though when it comes to coyotes, because I think they can. I don't know. It's hard to tell.
I think definitely like cat urine probably is a totally different
and
smell
fox,
and stuff.
Fox and a coyote. If he walks downwind of a fox pee, he literally can be 100 yards away from it, and I mean it's just like on a line. He's got to go check it out because it just makes him mad. Cat too, yeah. But yeah, I see what you're saying. I've heard old trappers tell me too. It's the salt in the urine that the deer are really interested in. That makes a lot of sense too. So. A little off topic there. There's your urine lesson for the day. If anybody was tuning in for that. Yeah. So talking about day hunting, night hunting. Let's kind of dive into some gear that we use. I'll talk kind of a little bit about it first. But when I'm day hunting versus night hunting, a lot of my gear is similar, but my setup is totally different. Just kind of hitting the high points here, but. If I'm day hunting, like I said already, I'm going to get closer to cover, or the general direction I think coyotes are coming. I'm going to crowd it a little bit more. All the way up until this year, I would have said I'd been sitting on the ground on my butt, and I'm not doing it ever again. It's a game changer. We are carrying these new ultralight stools. What do they call it? Who they buy? Grand Trunk. 360 compass stools, what it's called. I've got it in my pack here for you guys. Look, and I'll kind of pull it out, but these are an absolute game changer. Since I've started hunting off of one, I originally bought this thinking and saying I'd use it mainly at night, giving me some elevation to scan from. And a lot of times calling at night, I'll stand if I've got too much, cover.
Oh, absolutely. At night time, I'll always stand.
Especially scanning.
Yeah,
but
stuff.
I'll sit sometimes too, especially bald open areas. I'll sit sometimes too. But these little stools right here, man, are an absolute game changer. Way less than, right at a pound. Fold down to nothing. If you were watching there, you just saw me pull it out of the side pocket of my calling pack. I mean, you don't even know you're carrying it. And as far as, sitting, this year I sat all day on one deer hunting. I mean, they're
super
comfortable.
I actually, how I found them is I carried them out west elk hunting, And then I was like, man, this would be nice coyote calling too, because the 360 swivel on them is just, and it's smooth as butter. You know, there's no hiccups, there's no nothing. Holds, weight, and everything else just fine. It doesn't have any issues. And that's the XL version. They do make a smaller version too that even compacts even smaller. And we carry these in the store now. So
for my height, this XL is about perfect. Somebody a little shorter, if you could get away with the shorter stool, especially for calling in the daytime, it would be probably a little better. It's got this little pocket underneath you too if you want to slide your remote or whatever in there too. But these things weigh absolutely nothing. They pack up super small. They're not that expensive. Where are they? $60, $65?
Yeah, 69, I think. Somewhere in there.
And I mean, worth every single dime. I won't call again with that one, but I originally bought that to night hunt off of with. I'm using it every time I set up. I'm using it now, mainly because I'm running that tripod. If I was shooting off, the sticks like I used to, it probably wouldn't be that big a deal. But we're now getting into the tripod game and running the ultralight tripod. The stool is an absolute game changer. And swiveling here and swiveling on the paint head there, I mean, there is no picking up and moving anymore.
I hunted many, and I'm sure you did the same thing, many years sitting on the ground, and you get uncomfortable, and you're having to readjust, or you try to wear like a turkey vest with the pad, attached to it, or, I've literally tried it all. And they even used to make those little turkey seats that were like, they fold up and you carry them on your shoulder. I've used
about
those.
7 pounds.
Weigh about, and I've literally tried it all, and just everything has just been so uncomfortable. But these stools out here have been awesome, even out west or whatever, and it's, again, super lightweight, so you don't notice it if you are carrying.
And they pack up so small, even though they're light. They pack up so small, they literally fit. I mean, it takes up less room than my Nalgene in that side pocket. Super small, light. We don't even know you have it on you.
No,
but daytime calling, it's a little different. My dad, he's old school. He'd be like, "Oh, I don't want to be that high up off the ground." I agree to a certain extent, but you just have to set up with some cover. But I will take being a hair bit more exposed in the daylight and giving myself extra visibility with that height difference. It's a game changer.
The only time I probably wouldn't use it during the day, and honestly, I probably have better luck during the day, is close quarter thicket shotgun hunting. You know what I mean?
I did it this year in a pine thicket that I would have normally sat on the ground with a shotgun. I sat on that stool. It was a game changer, man. I probably had another 20, 30 yards of visibility just from getting up over eye level over stuff.
Over the scrub and stuff.
And in that situation, by the time they come into that situation, by the time they come in, close enough to see on that stool with the tree. Now, I've always got some structure at my back. I think that's the biggest thing.
Absolutely. But you don't want to silhouette yourself.
Right. It's over for them anyways, you know what I mean? But if they were to pick you out. So.
Man, that's what – we're getting a little off subject here, but the shotgun hunting close range, man, is probably the most adrenaline rush. Because I've had a bobcat literally 5 steps behind me before, come in from behind me, and not even know it's there, which some people get a little freaked out about, you know what I mean? But I just turn around, and I seen that sucker right there, and, of course, I'm holding my shotgun this way, and I'm like, how the heck am I going to – and it just stood there for, like, what seemed forever. And then I wheeled around and shot it, as it kind of started going away and turned away from me. But, I mean, it's just up close, in-your-face action, because even coyotes, they'll be like, boom, right there all of a sudden. I mean, it's a lot of fun.
You want to talk about probably the most efficient and most productive daytime calling is with a shotgun and tight cover. That's not
because
how everybody
they don't want to come out into the fields, during the day as much, because they're not stupid.
No,
you know
that's
what I mean?
not how everybody wants to coyote call.
It's not.
But if you want to see shotgunning coyotes in thick cover at its absolute, perfection, look up Tory Cook with MFK Game Calls on YouTube. Hey, that man has perfected the art of killing coyotes with a shotgun.
Oh, yeah.
And it's wild. I mean, I've seen him kill 5 or 6 coyotes in one stand. His favorite time of year to call, too, is not the most enjoyable time to be out there, but it's August, September. It's hot, and he's out there at daylight or right there before dark, and he's in some thick cover. He's shooting coyotes at 10, 12 yards, And a lot of times he's calling with his collar and calling with a mouth call at the same time. He's very effective, using a lot of coyote vocals.
You do a lot of electronic calling, and I do too. I have over the years, but a place that especially like my dad's farm that he runs, I've electronically called there so many times that a coyote that I've called in before and maybe didn't get a shot at or something gets very leery of it.
So
I will use the MFK calls,
Yeah.
the diaphragm mouth call, and instantly call them right in.
Right.
Like it just changing it up a little bit, because they say, I don't know this to be a fact, but they say like a veteran coyote can hear the sounds from the caller.
Speaker, yeah.
You know, they
So that's what I was just fixing to say. I think the only thing I would say that I agree with you. About 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, I agree with you 100%, and I still do to a certain extent. However, game calls have gotten so much better. The clarity of the speakers don't have that underlying, old callers used to have certain frequencies and pitch in them in their speakers that we couldn't hear that the coyotes could.
Especially when you turn it up all the way.
Exactly,
Yeah,
and have too much volume.
And I can even hear it sometimes.
So
when
they
turn-
can.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
not natural. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's gotten much better, much better, and so that's why I run a Fox Pro. I was gonna say I run a Fox Pro. I have a Wildfire and an Inferno both. I usually probably end up carrying my Wildfire more because it's just small, lightweight,
and
compact.
easier,
That sucker's very small, and I don't need a lot of volume around here. If I was going out west, I'd be carrying the Inferno, 2 speakers, a little bigger, but that's why there's a lot of good electronic callers out there. Lucky Duck.
Primos makes some.
Yeah, Lucky Duck makes a very, very, very good caller. I'm trying to think of another one. Very, very popular. Anyways, that's why I run a Fox Pro, because of the MFK sounds. They're a game changer. And Fox Pro's proprietary sounds are good, too. I think that's what makes an electronic collar is the sounds that they offer. The MFK sounds are a game changer. I mean, they're all live recorded animal sounds.
Yep.
And they're none of it's fake, hand calling sounds. And they're not looped.
Yep.
They're all continuous.
That's the thing. We're not trying to give all of our
Right.
calling pro tips.
Hey,
here,
I'm not
but-
going. Hey, you come in the shop. I'm not probably going to divulge all this information. You're gonna have to listen to the podcast to get some of this. But we can't tell you everything. But
Yeah.
here's some of it right here.
But the standard calls that come on the wall, everybody and their dog
Running 'em.
has been running them and calling them and
Yep.
stuff like that. So they're not going to
No.
be as effective. You can't run adult cottontail
Yeah,
every
I was
single
just
time.
fixing to say that adult
You go- and
cottontail that
that's
comes
what
on your
everybody
Fox Pro,
uses,
you might as well
what I
never
mean?
just. I mean, unless you're calling virgin coyotes,
Yeah, exactly.
you might as well just not even push
Exactly.
the button.
Now, in that case, yeah, I've called, and even the lightning jack, both of those I've called, and a ton of coyotes in with those 2 calls. If you never called that area before,
Right.
but if somebody else has called that area, you can pretty much guarantee they use those 2 sounds, or baby cottontail. You know what I mean?
So
But-
I called that coyote in yesterday morning at daylight on snowshoe high pitch, and if people will be like, "You call on a snowshoe? Why would you even use it?" Because we had a little bit of wind, and I knew that high pitched noise
Yep.
would carry a little bit better. But that was also a very young coyote, so that was probably, who knows? There's no telling no one. But if I had to guess, that was probably the first electronic rabbit that coyote's ever heard.
Yep.
That plays a factor. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the lightning jack, that's why I like
Yeah.
it. It's a jackrabbit call,
Right.
which obviously we don't
Carries
have
a
here,
little bit.
but it is so loud, it carries. And a lot of times what I'll do is I'll use that as like a last ditch effort, the last of the 30-minute
Yep.
set. I've been calling with something quieter, and then obviously there's nothing coming in, so
Yep.
I'm going to try to reach something, and I use the lightning jack for the last, 5-minute set. And then hopefully get something's attention, or if something's hung up,
Yeah.
and then they hear that loud sound. I've actually caught in a few bobcats like that have been sitting on the edge that you didn't even know was there in the daytime.
Oh,
If
yeah.
you don't have a thermal, then all of a sudden it's like, oh crap, what's that? And then it comes
Right.
trotting in, and then you end up killing it.
But
you know?
that's pretty characteristic of cats. They take a while to come in.
Exactly.
They're going to take their time.
Yep.
They're going to get a little distracted, and then they just take a long time to, generally speaking, take a long time to make their way into a set. But listening to Tori's podcast, listening to the Fox Pro podcast, Al Morris, he's a guy I listen to a lot. You want to talk about a guy that has absolutely slaughtered some coyotes in his lifetime. Big Al Morris, I mean, that man has absolutely wrote the book on calling coyotes. I've listened to his podcast a lot. I used to sit down and run a set on a stand. I'd sit and play the same sound 15 minutes. I don't do that anymore. 5, 6, 7 minutes max, I'm switching sounds.
Yep.
Now, are there some coyotes maybe I'm missing that I should have played that sound 20 minutes and maybe eventually? Probably so, but I'm playing the odds here. It's kind of like bass fishing. There's guys that will literally sit there and jig the same area, all day long and scratch out maybe a limit. And that works too. But there's also guys, you can speak on this more. I'm not a fisherman, but that are hitting that bank. They've got the trolling motor on medium high, and they're going down through there and getting the most receptive fish all day long.
Yep.
That's kind of my theory here. You know, you're wanting that responsive, you're wanting that impulse response, and sometimes the first couple sounds you play aren't going to do it. But there's been times I've went through 3, 4, 5 sounds, and on that fifth sound, last minute, 5-6 minutes of a stand, all of a sudden you turn it on, within 30 seconds there's a coyote running in. You know.
Well, it's just different sounds pique different interests.
Triggering
you know
impulses.
That's just
Yeah.
know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
That something that they were like, oh, I've never heard that before, or just something, whatever it is.
And you don't know, they may have been laid up eating a dead cow all night long, and they're not hungry.
Yep.
But as soon as you turn that pup distress or coyote challenge bark on, hey, that's somebody in their area that might be going over there to get that dead cow that they've been eating on. And we go run them off.
Yeah, that's honestly a lot of times, especially on the farm, coyote calls work so much better because
vocals,
on a farm they're not really that hungry because, dude, there's a plethora of food, especially when you're running a cattle farm with 1,000 head of cattle. There's always food there, you know what I mean? And there's all kinds of varmints around those same areas and stuff. And
from about now all the way till March, coyote vocals are going to be hot. And
well, because it's about to be mating season, if not already, And
then about late summer all the way through early fall, pup noises, period, pup vocals, and then adult vocals, challenging adult vocals are going to be really hot.
Yep.
Right now, interrogation howls, challenge barks, all that stuff is really hot right now too. So, but back to kind of some of the gear here. Not only the stool, but the tripod been a game changer. I run the AZIAC with the AZIAC ball head, ultralight tripod, 2.5 pounds, goes from standing height to sitting height, all the way to sitting on the ground flat. I love it. I mean, it's like shooting off of a bench. And I say that, but it is. I mean, shot that coyote yesterday morning, about 150 yards. It was like I was literally shooting off of a bench. It wasn't even a problem, It's a game changer.
Yep.
And it folds down the side of my to absolutely nothing. Fits in the side pocket of my backpack. I mean, it's handy. Takes no time at all to set up, And 5 or 6 years ago, if you talked to me about a tripod, I'd have said, oh, I don't want one. They're too heavy, too big, too bulky, take too long to set up. Just wasn't interested. Just, almost swore them off. Now that I've started hunting with that one, I'll never hunt without it. Shoot, I deer hunted with it some this year.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, used to, what's the bog pod? That was the most popular one for the last several years.
Right. And good steady
tripod. I had one, but my God, when I carried it one night, I was like, I'm gonna have to start working out more to carry this thing. Literally they weigh 9 pounds, and that's the specs on them is 9 pounds for that tripod. This one weighs 33 ounces.
Yeah,
that
crazy.
is just nuts.
And I've got that set up on a
stable.
Right.
Just a stable.
Yeah. And I've got that one set up on an Arca rail, so it cutting even more weight without the gun saddle. And like you're saying, stable. You're at standing height. You can hang your bag. For those of you looking or watching, you can hang your bag right from the center hook, and it's adding more stability to it right there. Plus, if I'm standing, your bags are super accessible than on the ground.
Yep.
That hook is an overlooked feature, I think, that is extremely important.
Well, not only that, sometimes, especially where I hunt in River Valley, it's nothing but swamp.
Yeah.
And I don't want to sit my daggone bag in that stuff,
Yep.
And I don't want to have it on my back and have to swing it around and pull it off of it. That's so handy to have that right there.
Absolutely.
And another thing, the ball head they use is smooth as butter, number one, but the features it has is really made for running a gun off of. I mean, it's the way the controls work and everything on it, you can just break that knob loose and then you're free to shoot whatever. Crank it back tight real quick and shoot. I mean, it's literally designed for it. And the company's out of Montana, great guy that owns it.
Great guy.
We speak with him personally. I mean, he's been great to us and everything else.
They did a great job designing those tripods.
And a great job designing the tripods. Yeah, he has been. I mean, just the whole design is pretty much perfect.
Yep.
I honestly, the reason why we started carrying them because Graham actually talked me into it. I was a Tricer guy actually before that, and we still carry Tricer tripods. But I honestly think that AZIAC has done better in definitely some certain areas.
I like the Tricer tripods a lot too, and I think they got a lot of really good features. And for glassing at a sitting height, I think they're phenomenal.
Yeah.
For running a gun off of and at a standing height, I like the AZIAC front country, but they both are phenomenal, and we carry both of them at the shop.
Yep. And you that's the thing, you can choose for yourself whatever you like best because the Tricer does have the thicker legs at the bottom. They reverse the legs instead of being skinny at the bottom, they're thicker at the bottom. So probably it is a little more stable. But other than that, I think the advantages go to AZIAC.
what I've noticed on the TriStar too about being more stable is when you put a spotting scope, a heavier optic on there with a little glass here. It is a little steadier in that application. Absolutely.
But
it's
this
funny
definitely packs down smaller.
Oh, yeah.
And is about, they're both about the same weight, but the way their center column's made, it just allows the legs to get closer together. And again, the head is definitely better for running a gun on.
It's funny too. Guys will come in the shop, they'll look at them, and be like, "Oh, I'll be a little interested," and they'll be like, "That looks pretty cool," you know. And we'll talk to them about the features and stuff, and you can tell they're, you know, kind of 50-50 on it. And then we go grab one of our guns with an Arca rail and put on that sucker and let them manipulate it for a minute, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, this is a game changer. This is awesome."
So for those of you who don't know what an Arca rail is, what we're talking about is instead of having a gun saddle that you set your gun in and it clamps to it, which is useful in a lot of situations, especially if you're running different guns, that way you don't have to have Arca rail on every gun. But what this is, it is a small rail that you put on the bottom, almost like what comes on a camera, you know, if you're familiar with camera mounts. But you can put it on M-lock or on the sling swivel stud of your firearm, and then it just slides directly into that mount right there, and it makes it, you're adding ounces at that point, you know, maybe 1 or 2 ounces.
Yeah. And
it stays small and close to your gun. It's not bulky. It's, you know, you're not carrying a big saddle on top of that, taking up more room and adding more weight and everything else. So.
You don't have to worry about cant in the saddle. It's in there every
100%,
time. Yeah, 100%. And it's I like if I have a dedicated calling gun, they've all got an Arca rail on it. Now, deer hunting rifles that my wife or son or anything's carrying, it, you know, we hunt a dozen times out of the year with, I'll put a gun saddle on there and just put it in the saddle. But if I'm using a dedicated gun all the time, it's got an Arca rail on it. I mean, you're just getting lighter and more stable too, I think. But the tripods have been an absolute game changer. And I mean, other than the tripod stool, you know, the collar, like I said, I run the Fox Pro. I mean, if I'm daytime calling, I always got a face mask and gloves on. I don't care if it's if it's 90 degrees, I ain't running either one of them. Cut hay fields. But, you know, I'm just going to sit in the shadows and hope for the best. But most of the time, I get away with it. I got face masks and gloves on. That's about it, man. I mean, pretty typical stuff. I'm running the Eberlestock, what is that, the Free Fall pack?
Free Fall.
Yep. Free Fall, I absolutely love it. Chase got me hooked up with that this year. Absolutely love it. I had an old Molly Amazon Special backpack. You know, it works fine for a while, but that is I think that's the smallest pack that they make with an internal frame still, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and it's absolutely
and the
carries weight well. It's very comfortable.
The features are endless on these packs. That's the thing, you know. You buy, you can get away with your Amazon or Walmart packs for sure, but they're going to have one big open pocket, maybe a couple pockets on the outside. But this thing,
and they kind of just hang on you.
Yes,
they're not supportive at all.
They don't support you. The pads on this thing is absolutely phenomenal. They put a back pad right there on your butt where it holds it where it should be, and it's just so comfortable. You know, that's the same. I run Eberlestock when I go out west, the E-Mod pack, because it's a modular pack where you can literally design it to do whatever you want to do. You know, people are actually using them to carry them in for tree saddle hunting and stuff like that now. But for predator hunting, the thing is, you want to have your stuff accessible and in certain places where you can get to it fast, and you don't want to have to be digging for stuff. Which I will say, this thing has so many pockets that I have lost stuff in it before. I mean.
Absolutely.
It's just so...
And, you know, we're trying to get the YouTube channel fired up and going, and maybe I'll do a gear dump, you know, on the pack someday, and we'll go into literally everything I carry, which there's some nuances there, and I think would be useful with some people, but we won't get into all that today. But I will say I do carry a decoy, and I think if you're not carrying a decoy, I don't see one con on a decoy, and I think if you aren't carrying a decoy of some kind, now let me say a decoy with movement.
Yes,
that's what
spinners.
It is. There's any kind of movement. It don't even have to be crazy. Be something homemade. I don't care. I think I hate to say game changer, but I think it's almost a necessity for several reasons. I don't see one con in it, and it has done two things. A lot of times it has, you know, coaxed an animal into a closer range or out of cover for me before, even just stepping up out of a fence line into view to take a look at that, allowing me a shot opportunity. But the biggest thing I think a decoy does is allow you to get away with more movement, because when they come into view of that collar, it gives them something to focus on. And if you're turned to look in the opposite direction, you just catch movement at the corner of your eye and you see, and it's, oh, shoot, I've got to turn completely over here. If you don't have something, especially on a cat or a coyote, you don't have something drawing their attention to them, in my opinion, it's very hard to get turned on them.
Yeah.
And I think a decoy a lot helps with that big time.
Definitely helps draw their attention away from you. That way you can make some moves.
Another pro tip there. You can't just get this stuff for free. You got to listen to the podcast. But.
Man, and there's been all kinds of decoys come out. I remember this one deal that had basically looked like a dead rabbit that it flapped on
flopping back inside.
Did you see
I remember.
I remember that one, which that didn't last very long.
Yeah,
probably the Mojo. What's it called? The critter something.
I don't even remember what mine is. I think
it's Mojo is what it is.
I think it might be. And it just spins.
Yep.
But my spinner. We were calling at night, and I had an owl come through, pick the top of my spinner off.
Oh
gosh!
Owls
and usually I can find them. I have threatened to tape a piece of reflective tape on mine so I can find it at night, and never did. He picked the top of my decoy up and flew off with it, and never found it. So I had to make another topper out of a foxtail for mine, which has worked really well. But so any movement at all, anything that looks semi-natural is a game changer, especially in the day.
Man,
they
have cost me a lot of money because they will literally. And the bad thing is, obviously, they're illegal to shoot. So what are you supposed to do? You can't scare them off.
And at night, it's even worse because all you see is them swoop in, grab it, and then by the time they're gone, you don't see them drop it because most of the time they'll drop it, but you can't see where it's. I mean, you're just wandering around at night looking, with the headlamp. It's annoying, but so. That's basically my general gear. Let's get into some like calibers, guns stuff. I'm mainly hunting with a 223 all the time. Whether that's a bolt gun, I carry a bolt gun still. For a little bit nostalgic, it was my first rifle that I ever bought. I like hunting with it still. But is it absolutely the most efficient? Probably not. But I still like hunting with it.
I enjoy the bolt gun stuff, especially I ran a 22 250 for years, and I absolutely loved it because it's such a flat shooting caliber. I could literally hold from 0 to 400 yards and kill coyotes, and that's what I liked about it because especially coyote hunting, it's really hard to range them and figure out where they're at and everything else. You really want to be able to shoot a flat shooting caliber that you can get on target and not have to worry about what the distance or anything like that.
Well, and when you skin also too, I don't think realize when you skin the hair off of a coyote, it's not a big target. And a bobcat, even smaller. I mean, you're talking about, maybe a 4-inch cylindrical tube type target. I mean, not very big at all. So there's a lot of room for error there.
Yeah, I think the one of the biggest downfalls to bolt gun, especially like if you're running a tripod, is having to, and obviously you can, if you practice enough, you can stay on target and work the bolt, but you're still making a lot of movement versus if you're running a semi-automatic platform, whether it's AR or some kind of design like that, then you can continually rotate and shoot as you're going.
Follow-up shots or multiple targets. It's a bolt gun. A bolt gun's going to handicap you in that. I just like hunting and buying some just because it's nostalgic. 90% of the time I'm carrying an AR and
and it's got a sweet Cerakote job on it.
Yeah, it does have that an OG Cerakote. Was that from the shed?
That was from the shed.
Oh man, we need to frame that one. I just need to stop carrying it. It's probably gonna be worth some money nowadays.
Hey, man,
it's probably gonna be
OG
shed classic
Cerakote job.
Woo, man.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know that. I'll probably stop carrying it. Yeah. Most of the time I'm carrying an AR. I'm weird. In the 223, I also have a 7.62 by 39. I call out with a lot because 2 reasons. I just like the gun; it suppresses well, and 200 yards and in, where I'm hunting most of the time. Hey, when you shoot them with the old 7.62, they don't take another step.
Oh yeah.
But it's a little overkill for coyotes. What generally got me carrying it coyote calling is because we were going out at night calling areas where we were trying to call coyotes, but coming into the next field to set up for coyotes, it was not uncommon to see a whole slew of pigs across there, and I could do both out of it. So that's what kind of got me started with the 7.62.
Not saying you can't ear-hole pigs with 223.
Yeah, killed a ton of them that way. Me too.
But definitely 7.62 by 39.
Body shooting hogs.
Yes, yep. And the new thing coming out that everybody's going to now. 6mm arc.
The 6 arc. So me and Chase, I was the first one to kind of jump on board and get interested and like it. Chase kind of warmed up to it. Now I'm kind of, I think the 6 arc is a great cartridge, and I think for coyotes, it could be one of those cartridges that you could legitimately varmint hunt, coyote hunt with it, and then like I'm saying, you you're going walking into an area and see a pig, easily kill a pig with it, deer hunt with it. It's pretty versatile, graining up and down.
Well, it's a 243 bullet, neck down from a 308 cartridge. I mean,
suppresses fairly well.
Suppresses very well.
Optimized to run out of a short
AR
barrel
platforms.
Yeah.
That's really what it's designed to do, is to be running. It's the first 243 kind of design. And similar ballistics that you can run an AR platform. I mean, there is a few companies that make 243s and AR platforms, but very few, and they're very expensive.
Which I've said for years, if I want carrying 223 coyote calling out west and I need some more, oomph behind it, I'm probably just stepping up to 243. Because if you got to take that 400, and now I'm talking out west, long distances, that 243 is going to get there with some authority still. A lot of other calibers still flat shooting lose a lot of energy out there. So I think the biggest thing, like we were talking about the other day, though, I'm like, we both were talking about wanting to build 6 arcs, and we probably will because, we're, irresponsible with guns, but we will. Well, not with guns, but with gun purchases. But I have never shot a coyote well with a 223 and have it take another step.
No,
it's plenty.
I mean, the reality is if we're strictly coyote or bobcat calling, stuff like that, there's no reason to do anything other.
I think bullet selection is important.
Very.
For coyotes, I think if you're shooting something really bonded and it zips right through them, you're going to have them run a little ways, or, you're not going to get that immediately put down. And I'll be honest with you, I don't like looking for coyotes, especially after dark. When I shoot a coyote, he may spin a few circles and go down, but I don't want to be looking for a coyote. So I shoot the Hornady Superformance 53 grain VMAX, pretty volatile, violent bullet. I shot that coyote in the chest yesterday, went in, never exited, but that coyote literally never took another step. I also like it too if you are shooting at night or shooting even during the day, and you do miss a coyote, it's not going to travel 2 miles and go no telling where. You hit a fence line, you hit some brush, you hit any tree, any twig, nothing, and all that bullet's going to disintegrate. A little safer, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Now, I'm not saying you can't kill coyotes with soft points and they're not going to work. Absolutely, you can. But that's just what I choose to run, and I've had extremely good success at it. Plus, that Superformance is pretty hot out of a 223.
Oh, it's very hot, yeah. I just grew up running nothing but soft points because, back in the day, ballistic tips have come a long ways, no doubt. But back in the day, I've seen a lot of people lose deer with ballistic tips because they'll zip right through a deer and not hit nothing hard, and that bullet don't expand. Versus the soft point, it will actually open up on skin impact.
Yeah.
So, if you do happen to make a bad shot or something like that, the soft points are still going to do their job. Like, that's why I tend to run the Federal Fusion 62 grain. I fell in love with those.
And those are optimized to run out of an MSR.
They're MSR, yeah.
So they do cycle, perform,
modern sporting
well.
Rifle for those who don't know MSR. But.
Yeah, and if I wasn't shooting the VMAX, that's what I'd be shooting, 100%. Yeah, and the VMAX, I'm shooting it because that's, they're coyote
you've
calling
always
guns.
shot. You're confident with it,
Yep.
and you know what I mean. As long as you're confident with it, it's going to make you a more confident shooter.
Now, I will say it doesn't suppress quite as well. If I was shooting
Definitely not.
No, if I was shooting the 62 grains at a little lower velocity, it would suppress a little well. Although, I'm running right now that 223 out of that bolt gun. I'm running that Omega 300. And my buddy was with me yesterday when I shot that coyote. First thing he did is turn and look at me and said, "Dang, that was quiet." And I was like, it for a 30 cal can on a 223 running 3,800 feet per second, it's pretty impressive.
Man, the Omega 300 is just such a good versatile can, and now they're doing them direct thread at $680. I mean, you just can't beat them.
No, I think.
I mean,
there may be other cans that do specific things better on the market, but all around can, you'd be hard pressed to find one better.
I mean, my dedicated 5.56, I do run the Velos. I think it's probably the best dedicated 5.56 can on the market. We haven't got the Tesla Southpaw coming out by the queue, but so far it is by far the best 5.56 as far as quietness on the market. But if you can only afford one can or only want to deal with getting a tax stamp on one can, the Omega 300, you can use your deer rifle all the way up to 30 cal and everything else, and it's such a versatile can that it's really hard to beat. And on that subject, people sometimes will come shoot a suppressor and we'll be like, "Oh, that's quiet." Well, yeah, it's not going to be movie quiet. You know what I mean? Hollywood has ruined this. That's
Oh,
why we
yeah.
have to pay tax stamps.
Yeah.
Because they think you can shoot somebody 1,000 yards and nobody know what's going on.
All
It
you
ain't
hear,
like that.
all you hear is a bullet,
Yeah.
cycling, hitting the ground.
Now, granted, there are some calibers,
Yeah.
300 blackout, stuff like that, that are that quiet, but they're 100-yard guns.
And you're shooting subs. Yeah.
Shooting subsonics, yeah. They're 150-yard guns max.
Yeah.
Anything that has the velocity to carry 1,000 yard is going to have that crack. And what that crack is the bullet breaking the sound barrier. So anything faster than 1,100 feet per second is breaking that sound barrier. So yes, you're going to hear that crack, but the thing that people don't realize, especially coyote hunting or even deer hunting, whatever you're doing, is that's an all-around sound.
Oh, yeah.
It's not directional.
Mm-hmm.
So I've had coyotes. Yeah, I used to hear that crack even shooting something fast like a 22-250, but they have no clue where it came from.
It's really hard to.
They run at you. They run wherever.
I don't advise this, but if you were to stand down range 100 yards and you saw where your buddy was shooting from with a suppressed rifle in the situation you're talking about, and you just spin a few circles around, close your eyes, and have him shoot. Obviously don't do it, but it would be extremely hard for you to turn around and point exactly where that shot came from. You hear it, but it's very hard to pin down.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Yep. It's almost just like an overhead sound.
Yep.
Almost like lightning or something like that. But, well, we're going to have lots of comments and lots of people upset if we don't at least touch on the subject here of thermal. So we need to at least talk about some thermal a little bit. And, I've talked a lot about day hunting. I think that's just because it's kind of nostalgic for me. I love killing coyotes any way I can. And I will say my favorite thing is to see a coyote coming in the daylight. Yesterday was pretty epic. He came out underneath the cedar. He ducked underneath one of the cedar tree, and when he came out of there, I could see the breath coming out of his nose, and the sun was shining. It was pretty awesome. I wish I had it on film. You don't get that night hunting. However, there are also a lot of things in night hunting that is a lot of freaking fun, thermal being one of them, okay? It is so much fun to get out there in pitch black darkness and be able to see everything. It's just a game changer.
I'm the same way. I probably still enjoy day calling more than anything, just because I can see.
Right.
You know what I mean? I like being able to see everything and hear everything. And with the technologies of thermal and having binoculars and scanning and everything, but you can still only see where you're scanning.
Right.
So there's some difficulty in that. And plus, I still feel way more comfortable using a scope than a thermal.
Mm-hmm. Let's not beat around the bush. It's just a fact, and people aren't going to talk about this. Thermal scopes kill coyotes all day long. They're not as precision of a tool, though, as a glass scope.
No.
Now, is it enough to kill coyotes at some pretty impressive distances? Absolutely. But you're not going to sit down and shoot sub-MOA groups with a thermal. They're just not designed that
digital.
way. It's digital. You're looking through a processed screen the whole time. Yeah. Still very effective.
Yep.
Very, very effective. And I'll be the first to tell you, I am a big time day hunting advocate. I love it. I also love night hunting. I probably night hunt more than most people I know. You will call 3 to 1 coyotes at night than you will
no
the day.
doubt
It's just
better at nighttime.
They're
No
more
doubt.
active then. I don't even know if they're more active. I think they're more confident
Comfortable.
coming to the call.
Yep.
They're
Yep.
more confident in open spaces. So that's the biggest deal
That's
right
when you're
there.
going to call them into the fields.
Yep.
Is at nighttime.
Yep.
You're going to
And
10 to 1.
Not saying guys don't do it, but thermal and thick cover is pretty tough.
It's tough.
Not saying guys don't do it, and I'm not saying I haven't done it, but it's tough. It's not ideal.
Well, we were just talking last night, texting back and forth
Yep.
about the holotherm.
Yep.
The holotherm would be the only option to shotgun hunt and thick stuff at nighttime
Yeah.
because it's a quick reactive 1 power, something you can reactive shoot, or even if you're calling in, or if you're going to some pigs or something with wanting to get multiple shots at close range, the holotherm is really the only product
Yep.
in the game
Yep.
for that.
Yep.
Now, anything other than that, they're pretty much
Yep.
useless in my opinion, other than the cool factor.
They're
But
freaking cool.
But they are cool.
They are cool.
But at the price, you can literally buy an actual
Yep.
zoom optic for $500 more, maybe not even that.
Well, let's talk about that too while we're on that subject. Favorite thermals. Now, don't get me wrong. When we're talking about favorite thermals, are we saying these are the absolute best, clearest, top of the line thermals on the market? No. They're very, very good.
Yeah.
But are we talking, we're going to throw some names out there. You're talking about a Trijicon Reap or an Envision Halo, okay? Go look at some of the footage on some of those on YouTube. You're going to be extremely impressed. Then go price one.
Yeah,
You're talking.
We're talking about what everyday Americans
Yeah,
can afford. You know what I mean?
Those two I just named off. You're talking about 8 to 12 grand. IRA Rico. You know,
the IRAs
absolutely phenomenal. I mean, it's insane. It's like something off of Predator, the movie. It's crazy.
Well, they're doing stuff like inlaying IR over thermal.
Yeah.
And you know how we was talking about earlier, how IR probably does give you a better picture of what the animal actually is. But now they're combining IR and thermal.
That's the IRA hybrid. I don't remember the exact name of it, but it was the IRA hybrid.
But it's insane. But they're also $13,000.
Right.
I mean, you know,
that's more than I paid for my first vehicle.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, it's nuts. You can get endless with this, but like Graham was saying, we're gonna mainly talk about the affordable budget type thermals that everybody can realistically budget and afford.
Yep.
You know, our most popular seller probably, as far as a store, has been the AGM Radler series.
Yep.
Because
we've ran both of them, and they're very good.
They're very good. I ran the Gen 1. You know, we're getting the Gen 2s now. The big benefit for the Gen 2 is having the automatic record. It backdates 15 seconds from the time you fire the shot. Because there's been many times when I was using my Gen 1 that I forgot to hit record, and I missed a lot of cool stuff.
Yep.
You know, and now it automatically does that for you. You can literally Bluetooth it to your phone and have your buddy watching what you're looking through your screen.
Which is helpful, too. And there's been lots of times we've shot pigs, shot one, then transition, shot a different one, and then you're thinking, hey, after we shot that first pig, where did it go? Well, my buddy's, by the time we're getting our stuff packed up to go over there looking, he's already looking at his phone and telling me, hey, that first pig went this direction. That's handy out there at night.
Yeah, and not only like can you see past footage, but you can see current, like live footage.
Live streaming,
Live streaming.
You got a kid standing out there beside you hunting, or your kid's running the gun and you're trying to look and see what he's aiming at, making sure he's pointing the rifle in the right direction or whatever's beyond there. Yeah, it's very handy to him.
And the one we're talking about, if you get the TS-25 384, which we'll explain what those numbers mean here in just a second. They're $2,200 bucks. I mean, very affordable.
We realize that's still expensive and a lot of money, but when you're talking about the thermal world and the features you're getting for that, it's a lot of package for that kind of money.
Well, here's the reality though: 5-10 years ago, you couldn't touch a thermal for less than $5,000.
Right.
Period. So comparably, yes, it's very affordable.
With 10 times the features.
Oh, yeah, 10 times
the upgraded battery is a big game changer.
11 and a half hours on a rechargeable battery, comes with 2, and AGM does a 5-year warranty on all their products now, which is probably one of the highest in the industry. You know what I mean? I mean, they do some really good stuff. So what if we talk about like a TS-25, what the first number means is basically your field of view. So they have a TS-25, a TS-35, a TS-50. That's basically like a 40-millimeter scope, a 50-millimeter scope, and that's your front objective and basically how wide your field of view is on the front.
Yep.
And then the 384 is your resolution. So that means how clear it is in your view and how pixelated it is. Basically, the best way for me to describe that to people is when we're talking about TVs. Used to, you have the 90s model box style TVs are going to be like your 256. You know what I mean? And then you have the HD TVs, which is going to be like your 384. And then you have the 4K TVs, which is like your 640. It's all about clarity and pixelations.
Envision Halo now has a 1020.
Yeah,
it's insane.
It's insane. Yeah. It's nuts.
But, I mean, not to say I wouldn't want to look through one. Can never afford one.
Oh, yeah.
Now, while we're on the subject of 256, this is my opinion. I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings that may own one or have one out there. This is my opinion. I'm not trying to, talk bad, but I'm talking about people that are looking to buy one.
Mm-hmm.
In my opinion, and you elaborate on this some, if you only had the money to buy a 256, I would either A, save your money and wait and buy a 384, or if that was all you could afford, I would buy a pocket scanner and an IR scope.
Yep.
The 256 lacks a lot.
A lot.
You can see thermal imaging. IDing is kind of sketchy.
Within 100 to 200 yard max on a 256.
Yeah,
and that is not good. Here's the reality of it. There's been a bunch of accidents night hunting.
Yep.
And it can be a very dangerous game, especially hunting around other people's properties and stuff like that, where there's houses and stuff like that.
Livestock.
Livestock. It can be a very dangerous game. And, luckily me and Graham have been doing it for many years and not had any incidents. But it's because that we're very particular
Well, I'll tell you the first thing I do, and a lot of people are probably gonna roll their eyes about this, but this is just everything I do. This is what I do. If I have never hunted that property in the daylight, I don't go in there and night hunt it. I go over it with the landowner, or if he just gives me permission, I will go in there in the day and I'll drive over it. If I've got to, I'll walk over it. I'm looking at it on X and I'm walking over it, or I'm at least hunting it. I'm getting to know it in the daylight some way before I night hunt it. I never walk into an area cold and night hunt it because I just don't think it's safe. For one, it's hard to get into an area, know where you're at, get your bearings. You know what I mean? It's hard to get into an area. There's our buddy Joe out there, man. Showed up.
Oh, yeah.
He's come to support the podcast. It's hard to get into an area, though, effectively, quietly, call coyotes in the dark if you've never been there before. It's not. But number two, like you're saying, it's just really not safe.
It's not safe, and that's the reality of it.
Nobody wants to kill a coyote bad enough. Well, and here's the reality of it, too. You go in coyote call place, you may kill a coyote, but if you have a stray bullet that you hit a cattle, sheep, whatever livestock with, you're never going to be back there. Was it worth it?
And you're going to be paying for that livestock that you killed. And cows ain't cheap.
No.
I mean, $1,500, $2,000 for a cow.
And you're there to help that landowner.
And exactly. You're there to prevent this, not to, you know what I mean? And here's the deal. Especially a lot of farm areas and stuff, they have dogs and stuff like that.
Yep.
And dogs are just as interested. So if you can't.
Back to the 256 problem.
Back to the 250. That's what I'm saying. It's not that we're trying to rag on 256. No. It's just that realistically, it's not good enough to night hunt.
I'm not saying this to be a thermal snob. What I'm saying is I'm trying to, if somebody is coming in the shop or listening to this and trying to make a decision, I'm trying to help them make a better decision.
You want them to have the best experience with night hunting, because if they take a 256, they're going to be like, oh, thermal hunting is garbage. You can't see nothing or do anything. It is with a 256,
and
to be honest.
You're looking at about $1,200, $1,500 for a 256 thermal. Okay, most of the good ones that I've seen. For about $1,000, you can get a good pocket thermal scanner at 384 resolution and a nice IR scope
for $500-$600.
Yeah, and you're going to be more. You're going to definitely be more effective and safer.
Yeah, absolutely.
That would be my opinion.
Yep.
Now, while we're talking about scanners and brands and all. Not currently offering them, but we are trying really, really hard. Do we want to talk about this?
Yeah, we can talk about it.
We're trying really hard to become a dealer with Ricks. As a matter of fact, when we get done with this podcast, I have a phone call to talk about them. And we've been in contact with them. Very nice people. And, they're all based out of Texas. Been great to talk to and work with. If I was not going to buy an AGM, if we were a Ricks dealer tomorrow, that's what I'd buy. After demoing a few of them, I really, really, really like their K3 pocket scanner. I think for the money, it's the best scanner on the market. Now, I'm not saying it's the best scanner, period. I said for the money, $799, 384 resolution all the way up to 16 times zoom. It's, I think, the best pocket scanner on the market.
Yep, and now they're just releasing the helmet mount where it's going to be helmet mounted, where you can buy you a little bump helmet and put it on there, and then you can scan hands-free.
Yep. It's so you can elaborate more on this. I don't know the details on that, but it's a J dovetail mount. So what that's going to do is going to allow you to attach it to your bump helmet, but then flip up, flip down. But it's also going to let you flip down and get it perfectly aligned with your eye every single time. So there's no adjusting. Once it's set, it's up, down, it's there. Drive by it, walk by it, hunt by it, scan by it. I mean, you could even have it on when you're transitioning over to your other gun and then just flip it up out of the way.
Yeah, very similar to like the nods we ran in the military, except for those were all green night vision or white phosphorus. Now this one's thermal, and it's going to be able to come down and have micro adjustments to fit to your eye perfectly. So it's not going to, when you flip down, it's not going to hit you in the eye or anything crazy.
Or you're not going to have to
adjust it or anything like that. So that's a huge factor. Now, another huge thing coming up is going to be, with the Ricks is the optical zoom instead of digital zoom.
I think
that's the game changer. Yep. And the reason why we really like Ricks is because of the optical zoom.
Yep.
So typically, like on the AGM and stuff like that, the digital zoom, as soon as you zoom in once, for sure twice, it gets pretty pixelated.
Well, every time you zoom, so if you got 384 with the base 2 power, every time you hit that zoom button, you're cutting your resolution by half.
Yep.
So that's something you got to weigh in. That's why a lot of these thermal companies are coming out with, a lot of people want like 2 base power. That's why a lot of them coming out with 3 and 3.5 base power, because they realize hey, every time we're hitting that zoom button, our image quality is going down. So they're coming out with just a little bit more base power, and 3 power is not too much at all, base power. But that gives you a little bit more to deal with before you're having to hit that zoom button. But exactly, elaborate on the optical zoom. It's a game changer. I think the image quality screen to screen out of the AGM and the RIX on base power are the same.
Exactly.
Both
the same.
great.
Yep.
Both great.
384 is 384.
384, yeah. But it's that optical zoom is an absolute game changer.
And that's where the 640 does.
Yep.
Like if you stick to a standard base power 3 and you took a 384 and a 640, you're not really going to notice any difference. Where you notice a difference in the 640 is when you go to that digital zoom.
Well, you can zoom in twice and be 384 still.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. That's where it changes, But the optical zoom, what we're talking about, so instead of it digitally going in and changing the zoom, you can change the optical zoom on the scope just like you can a regular scope, and it's just going to zoom into the current image. It's not changing the image.
Instead of magnifying the pixels,
yes,
you're actually just optically with glass zooming in on what you have the scope focused on.
Yeah.
Anybody out here from Rick's Optics? I'm sorry, we're butchering this right now,
yeah,
but this is layman's terms right here.
Yep.
It's basically like running a glass scope on your thermal.
Yes.
You're turning it up just like optical zoom, and it is stupid clear. We were looking at cattle on a hillside at the shop, 900 yards away.
900 yards away, yep.
Base power zoomed all the way in, and we did have to reach up there on the diopter and focus it a little, but focused in, it was at 900 yards away. You could identify cow, bull, calf. I mean, it was easy. Yep. It would be tough to do on a 34 scope digital zoom.
Yep, absolutely. And another thing that benefit, they do have the LRF option now. So laser rangefinder, and the way it works, once you turn it on, it's everywhere you're looking, it's steadily changing, the distance. So you always know you don't have to click a button once you get on the Coyote or whatever. It's automatically going to be telling you the distance. And at nighttime, that is an absolute game changer because you cannot judge distance.
You have no
nighttime.
depth perception.
Your depth perception is non-existent.
Right.
And
with that LRF, if you get it set up on your rifle, which is very easy to do, it has a ballistic calculator in it as well.
Also has a ballistic
you can
calculator.
put everything from your caliber to your bullet weight to even your muzzle velocity, everything into this digital ballistic calculator online or on the scope. And then once you have that reticle centered on the target and it gives you a distance, you reach up there and push one button and it literally moves your reticle for you.
Yep.
That coyote moves or changes position, you just tap it again, it does it again. And it literally, there's no thinking involved, which is nice out there.
I'm telling you, Rick's definitely has, and it's an affordable scope. Well, they're $2,500.
Yep, 25 for 384.
For 384, $2,500.
And all that we're talking about.
Yeah, well, I think the LRF's a little bit more.
It is. Yeah,
the LRF you do have to add on, and that's another thing. It's not built in, so you can put it on the side of your gun or put it wherever you want to, and actually adjust it however you need to, because it's a separate item, and you can buy it separately. You know, in the AGM world, it's attached to a thermal, and it's another $1,000 to get the LRF. Versus, Do you know how much?
$499.
$499 to upgrade to LRF on the RICs.
Yep.
So there's a ton of benefits in the RICs, and we're really trying to get in that game, and we really like them. But the thing I will say, and the reason why I do still think AGM Rattlers are going to be a big seller, is because for the guys who can't afford both, having a clip-on and clip-off thermal that's small enough to use as a monocular is definitely a game changer, because you're spending $2,200 to buy both a monocular and a scope if you can't afford both. Because if you buy the RICs, you're going to buy a scope for $2,500, then buy a monocular for another $800.
Yep.
You're quite a bit of money into it. Now that is the ideal way to go, but if you can't afford both, the AGM is still the most affordable way to go, because I personally have used it multiple times, took it off, scanned with it, find the coyote, we put a marker where you put it back in the same place, slap it back on there, and then shoot coyotes.
So the American Defense mounts, it's literally zeroed on there at a time. That's a great point, and we talked about that the other day. If you are going to run one as a scanner, I don't think the RICs. Now we're talking about the Leap series.
Yes.
They make a Storm series. It's the same as the AGM Rattler. That's a clip on and off, but it doesn't have the optical zoom.
Exactly. It's going to have the same features as the AGM.
It's basically the same scope, honestly.
Yep.
And we just are more familiar with the AGM as far as the clip on and off, and I like them a lot.
And they hold zero.
They hold zero.
They hold zero, clipping it on and off. As long as you put it back in the same place, it will hold zero.
Now, the Leap series is a little heavier, Gonna add a little bit more weight. It does have some actual glass internal.
Bulkier because it is a full-size scope.
More traditional size
more
scope.
Traditional style.
18650 batteries instead of an internal. Well, the rattlers come in and out, but 18650 batteries are about 4 hours runtime instead of 11. But I mean, that's not a bad deal either. But just some pros and cons to weigh. It's basically, and this is why you need to come in the shop and talk to us personally, and come in here and actually have this back and forth conversation about what you're going to do, your budget, blah, blah, instead of just getting online and ordering something, because we can help tailor your needs. Just because I'm running this thermal doesn't mean that's the best thermal for everybody out there. You know what I mean? Yep. It's just going to depend on your budget, your needs, where you're hunting, how far you're shooting. If you're shooting somewhere where you're telling us that, 300-400 yard shots are common for me at night at coyotes, you need the Leap. You need that optical zoom. If you're telling us that your budget's, $2,200, that's all you can spend, and you need both of them, you need the Rattler to do both.
And that's the thing, like I said, we currently don't carry Ricks. We're trying to, but we're not going to just try to sell you what we have in store. Obviously,
we're talking about a product we don't even have.
Yeah.
And we like.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
We're going to be honest with you, and we don't mind sitting and talking with you as much as we can, while we're at the shop. Obviously, we have a bunch of stuff to do there. But, we're never going to not talk to you about stuff. No. We'd rather you do that than you order it offline on Amazon and then you be disappointed and not happy, and then you not ever buy another one or get into it. Because we're conservationists at the end of the day. We want people to hunt. We want people to coyote hunt or predator hunt or whatever to preserve game. You know what I mean? That's what we truly care about. So whether it's something we sell or not, we're still going to be able to talk to you about it and get you the products that you need. So.
And I know there's a lot of guys out there that have a little higher budgets. They're screaming right now, why aren't they talking about Pulsar or iRay or stuff? Hey, they're amazing scopes. That Thermion, that new Duo Thermion is absolutely unreal.
And they make the clip-on. They can clip on in front of your regular scope. But they're $5,000.
And their Axiom and Talus series scanners are just phenomenal. But I'm just being real, and this is just... We're being honest right now. We don't have a whole lot of customers or clients coming in with that kind of budget all the time. I don't have that kind of budget. I would love to have one. It's, not feasible for me and my family and my financial situation to be able to own one. And there's a majority of the people out there like that. So.
And another reality is you got to think about what it's worth to you. Yeah. If you're only going to be able to night hunt 10 times a year, it's not worth spending $5,000 to $10,000 on that. You know what I mean? It's just, you just can't realistically do it and think it pays for itself, because it just don't. But so the Pulsars are great, and they're great products, and we have sold a lot of them. But again, that is a scope. So they don't make the clip on. Well, they do make the clip on for your that goes in front of your regular scope. But as far as a quick attach, monocular use, dual use, Pulsar really don't have anything in that game. And so that's why, again, we go back to the AGM for people who can't afford to have both a monocular and a thermal imaging scope. So.
And iRay does, but you're looking at $5-6 grand for their entry level stuff. They have some Bravo series stuff that's not quite as expensive, that I'm not quite as familiar with, but they are a little heavier. We've had the iRay rep in multiple times. Great company, good people. But they actually are coming out with a side company, thermal company called Knockpix. It's starting to get some momentum, and I've seen a lot of stuff online. Don't know much about them, but we'll see what that kind of turns into. I think it's probably going to be kind of like a Ricks-esque type, company. Probably going to be very competitive in pricing, features, and stuff. So we'll see what that turns into. But here's the reality too: 95% of these companies are all using the same processors, same everything, internals from the same place in China. Okay, I know that's a terrible word to say, but it's true. So features are probably what's separating them apart now, more so than resolution and processing, because they're all running about the same hertz and resolution.
Like I said earlier, 384 is 384. Yeah. You know what I mean? If they're using the same processor and the same refresh rate, they're all the same quality as far as, the digital part of it. But
for those guys that, maybe not going to be able to afford stepping the thermal game, let's just touch on some IR scopes real quick. Personally, if it was me tomorrow, if I had a very limited budget and could only spend $600 on a night scope, it would be the 4K Mini, the Sightmark 4K Mini, or the 4K regular. They're $599, $699, depending on which one you get. Very good scope. If I had about $900 to spend, I'd buy the AGM Spectrum. It's the best IR scope on the market. It's not even close. It also comes with laser rangefinder, ballistic calculator, everything we were talking about in the RICS comes with it for $900, and the clarity is absolutely unreal on it for an IR scope. Those are some other options right there.
Yep, I agree with you. Like I said, I ran a Saltmark Wraith and had very, very good look out of it. Again, the only downfall to the IR is the reflection back if you have anything in front of you.
And there's 840 IR and 920, and I will recommend anybody running it to run the 840. It's a shorter wavelength than 920, or it's a different wavelength than the 920. I have had guys run a 920, which is brighter with me, and I've had coyotes booger on it. It's pretty bright. The 820, I think everything is running 820 now, honestly. But
the sniper hog lights, like the Coyote King and stuff like that. If you buy the Saltmark Wraith or some of those, I would highly suggest upgrading your IR light to the sniper hog light or the what's the one you
the Spectrum.
No,
Wicked Lights.
Wicked Lights.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Both are great.
Both of those are going to be great lights, and they're a game changer as far as distance. Because the one that's going to come with all those optics are going to be your 200-300 yard range. With a Coyote King and stuff like that, you can see 600 yards, no problem.
Yeah.
And
the Spectrum does not come with an IR light.
It doesn't come.
No, that's the only caveat buying that. That's probably may weigh in some guys' factors right there. It does not come with a light because watch their whole deal. AGM wants you basically to pick out your own light for what your needs. Now they sell them online and they offer them, but it didn't come with one because we're seeing like what you're saying. So many guys buying aftermarket lights anyways for them.
And obviously, we have not named every name brand out there that's out
impossible.
there. It's just impossible. But we are talking about the name brands that we personally have used and know that we can get customer service with. So we try not to talk bad about a lot of companies. We just try not to mention them. I know ATN obviously is.
Chase isn't going to say it. Don't buy ATN. Don't buy Burris scopes. I'm just telling you right now. Not Burris scopes. Burris thermal.
Yeah,
they're horrible. Yeah. I had a guy come in not too long ago with a Burris thermal. We looked through at the shop. I don't even know what to say about it.
And they weigh 12,000 pounds.
Yeah, I really don't even know what to say about it. It was horrible.
And I don't know, honestly.
And he paid good money for it. And I felt bad for the dude.
Yeah, they're not cheap.
No.
Burris, they're probably fine as a company. I haven't really dealt with their customer service. But I will tell you, the reason why we don't use ATN is because of customer service.
I know there are guys right now throwing stuff at their phone or turning the podcast off right now saying, I've run ATN for years and had no problem out of it. Good deal. I'm happy for you. You're going to.
Yep.
And if you do, you might as well just throw it away.
Yep. You're not going to get any help with customer service.
No. And I'm sure their Thor line and some of I'm sure they're impressive to take out and look through. I'm sure they're impressive. I'm sure there are guys killing lots of coyotes and hogs with an ATN that are bashing us right now. I understand that. And if that's your thing, I'm just talking about from experience here.
Yep. And somebody, again, we do this for a living. We sell these products. We see how many come back. We see, the issues we have. We've made the phone calls to the factory multiple times with all these people, and we tell them as a dealer, I've yet to talk to anybody at ATN.
Let's just not even talk about us. Let's talk about this. Outside of the military world, civilian world, there is no other more thermal experienced place on the planet besides Texas.
Yep.
There are a million, when I say a million, there are a lot of thermal dealers in Texas. 95% of them do not carry ATN. What does that tell you?
Yep.
The thermal game's just gotten too competitive and too it's just gotten too competitive, and now they're at a price point where more and more people can get into it for them to carry stuff like that they know that if I have problems with it, I've basically got a paperweight.
Well, ATN, I will say one good thing about them. They really changed the market of thermals because they were really probably the first company that came out with an affordable IR and thermal.
They drove the price down.
And they're overpriced now. Yeah.
No, they drove the price down.
Oh, they drove the price down. Yeah, they drove the price down, and they really made the market more competitive.
Feasible.
So yes, we're kind of talking about them as far as the customer service, but that's just our experience with them and the stuff that we know for a fact to be as far as what we dealt with. But we do think that they're probably one of the first companies that made affordable stuff, and we appreciate them for that and making a more competitive market. But again, we, as a full-service gun shop, we talk a lot about customer service, and if we can't offer the customer service because of the manufacturer, it looks bad on us.
And don't take our word for it, man. There's a lot of guys out there with a lot more experience in thermal and night hunting than even us. I mean, for example, if you guys want to go online and watch some videos or reviews of some other people, I'll give you some people to go look at. Todd Huey, I tell you, Huey Outdoors. Well, I love him or hate him. The man he's kind of like Kevin Brittingham of the suppressor world. Love him or hate him, he brought thermals to the civilian market and made it popularized. He was hunting with thermals for pigs before people realized that was even a thing you could do legally, you know. There's a company that have a really popular YouTube channel. It's called Texas Legacy Outdoors. There's a guy that does all the reviews for him. His name is called Hans ETX, Hans East Texas. I mean, those guys know thermals from, over my head to the top. I can't even keep up with them. Great podcast, great show, very informative. There's another guy that has Texas hog and predator hunting, super simple page, but his name is Jonathan Roach. I have talked to him multiple times. He's from around Mineola, Texas. Very knowledgeable, and he's very unbiased. I mean, he'll just tell you what you think. He's got a good channel. So don't just take our word for it. Go listen to some of these guys. You know, that's another thing I'd say. If you're going to get in the thermal world, do your research.
Yep, definitely do your research. Yep. And again, we're always willing to talk, and even if we don't sell it, and give you suggestions on what we have experience with or what we would suggest. You know, like I said, luckily, if it wasn't for our customers, we probably wouldn't even have looked at a RIX. You know,
no,
I mean, we have customers that come in, show us the products, and we are always open-minded to it and everything. Yep. I personally didn't know much about RIX. Graham had done some research on it, and then a customer brought one into the store, and we got to look through it, and we fell in love with it.
Yep.
I mean,
and I think those pocket monoculars, their scopes are awesome. I think those pocket monoculars, those K3s, are going to be a big seller for us. Everything from night hunting to squirrel hunters to coon hunters.
That's another thing. We'll touch on that just real quick. Is when I first got my thermal, I took my boys out to coon hunt because coons are, like I said, a bad nuisance, and they're the worst thing, probably one of the worst things on turkeys.
Absolutely.
And we went out, and man, we killed like I don't know how many coons that night, because and we would literally find them in the thermal and then take the spotlight and look for them and still couldn't find them.
Yep.
There's no telling how many coons we have missed over the years and not been able to find and everything else.
Well, when you're shining those limbs too, they're going to look away from that light.
Oh yeah, they'll turn their head. They're not stupid. Those coons, especially the ones that's been shot at before, they know not to look at that light.
Yep.
But with a thermal, oh man.
Yeah, they can't hide.
Yeah, they can't hide. You can literally drive down the highway and see.
Not that we recommend that.
No, I mean obviously we're not shooting from the highway, but you can drive down the highway and look in the trees, and it's like light bulbs.
Yeah.
From all the stuff that you see in
That's
there.
Some Yale County stuff right there.
It is some Yale County stuff, but
he's exactly right though. But I think they're going to be a big seller for us for sure. So we kind of danced around some stuff. Since you've listened this long, let's give a couple of. I'll go first. A couple of big tips, and I don't even know that they're tips, but a couple of big insider things that we think will help people the most coyote calling. I'll give a couple, and then you give a couple. But my two would be, and people listening are going to be like, "Well, I waited all this time to hear you say this," but it's true. Two things that I think make successful coyote callers. There's a whole bunch, but two things that are overlooked. Number one, I'm going to say access. Access to land. Now, I'm kind of shooting my own self in the foot here because we're all, vying for access. But that's just a fact. If you want to kill lots of coyotes or be very successful, you've got to have access to lots of places.
Yep.
Because you may have the best coyote calling place in America. You call it 2 or 3, 4 times that year. Every time you call it, it's going to get a little harder and a little harder.
Yep.
Just part of it. You've got to be able to get over lots of land, lots of different coyotes, lots of different virgin ears. That's number one. That requires lots of connecting with landowners, going and talking to people, knocking on doors, getting told no a lot. That's just part of it. But over the years, if you get 2 or 3 places a year and you do that 5 or 6 years in a row, you got lots of places by then,
Yep.
So.
Yeah, the land that me and Graham have, we have access to thousands of acres, but
we're very, very, very fortunate.
We built this over years of doing this, and
mine started out trapping places and running a professional trap line. That really helped me. You running the shop. Now together, people coming in the shop, we've been we have a unique situation.
Yeah, we do, but here's the biggest thing. Probably here's my number one pro tip. You said access, but on the access point is being respectful to the landowners, because if you go in most of your landowners are going to be wanting you to come there and kill predators because they're a nuisance and they don't have time to do it. But it all is your demeanor and how you need to make them feel comfortable on what you're doing.
And I mean, I may walk in a half mile, shoot a coyote or two, and I drag every one of them out of there. And I got 2 coyotes in the back of the truck right now. People are like, well, why don't you just leave them? Well, one, I'm going to try to use every resource I can off that coyote. Number 2, I'm just not going to leave dead animals laying in the field, whether that landowner cares or not, just out of respect for them. Shutting gates back. Not being in places you're not supposed to be. You got to respect.
Being aware of where you're shooting and what's behind what you're, what I mean?
You take care of those landowners, and you should kill a few coyotes for them, and they start earning your trust. We've got one guy. He gave us access to one place and was kind of, I won't say reserve about it, but he was kind of like, we'll see how this goes. We killed several cows off of him. And then it's like, okay, well, I got this place you can go hunt. Now he's got literally 5 or 6 properties, all huge properties that we have access to that, by treating him right, open the door to a lot of stuff.
Yep. Don't go driving around side by side, revving it up, making a bunch of noise, rutting their place up.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, that's a big deal, too. You're tearing up their property, they're not going to let you come back, So key point, be respectful to the landowner.
Another thing I see a lot of times too, and especially new callers, and this is going to be another well, I've worried about that my whole life, deer hunting. But people, for some reason, get less conscious of it at night, or it's one of those things, and I understand, hey, I've got to go, I can go tonight, this is the place I'm going to go, but it's the wind.
Yep.
The wind. Access is, kind of first, but when you're actually on stand, wind. I'm telling you, if the wind's completely wrong for a spot, save it. Don't go call it. Wait till it's good. Go call somewhere else, even if it's maybe not as productive. But that wind is key. You're not going to call a coyote with the wind hitting you in the back.
Well, in my opinion, we talked about this the other night. Really, anything over than 6 to 8 mile per hour winds, you might as well not go at all.
Yeah.
Regardless of the direction, because the number one, wind tends to lay down coyotes and bobcats and stuff like that. Number 2, they're not going to be able to hear.
Well,
anything.
They don't hear as well, and also coyotes they hunt mainly by smell. They can't smell near as well, and they can't catch movement near as well.
Exactly.
Because everything's moving. Bobcats are 100% sight hunters, just about. And when everything's moving and windy, it shuts them down.
Yep.
Anything over 10 mile an hour wind, 10, 12, sustained, it's tough.
You might as well not even go.
It's tough. My suggestion would be save that spot. And that's another pro tip, third. Don't be afraid to save your spots. Even if it's like, hey, this is the only night I've got off, I got to go tonight. If conditions aren't good, save that spot, because me personally, would rather go maybe have to wait another week or 2 to go call it and kill a coyote than go just to go.
Or go scout out a new place.
Go scout a new place.
You know what I mean? And maybe get lucky.
Yeah.
But a place that there's coyotes and you're going to have access, or bobcats, and you're going to have good success rate at, don't burn it on a bad night.
Yep.
I mean, because you could go there on a good night and kill 2 or 3.
Yep. Best stand I ever had in my entire life was me and my dad. We went Christmas morning. This is just kind of a story, not really related, but Christmas morning to a place we had been saving all year. And the wind had been rocking all night. And that morning it laid, and it was just calm as could be, and it was cold. I'm talking in the teens. And we got up that morning daylight, and Dad's like, let's go calling. I know where they're going to be laid up. And so we put our stuff on before everybody, got up and around. We went headed that place, and he'd been saving this place. I was a teenager. I didn't think of that at the time, but he'd been saving this place for this moment. We go down there, we call it, and we called 6 coyotes at once. We called 7 coyotes, killed 6 all on one stand. It was absolutely unreal. But they were all bedded right down off in this draw in the cedar break, away from the wind all night long. And at daylight, when that wind laid and it was calm, they were ready to get up. And he knew of course, he's an experienced trapper, coyote caller. But that just goes to show you, when you wait to go call a spot on optimal conditions, what can happen.
Another thing, since we're on that subject, I will say that eastern coyotes that we hunt, are,
Toughest
it's
coyotes.
very, very rare to do what you just said.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Calling in more than one coyote at one stand is super, super rare. Now, if you go out west, it's extremely common.
Well, this time of
You know?
year, doubles, especially at night, doubles, pairs, mating pairs, aren't uncommon at all. But over two, I mean, there are instances around here where I have called 5, 6 coyotes in at a time and killed a couple at a time.
At
for
one
sure.
time.
At-
Was what I'm saying. Like, what I'm saying is, if you shoot a coyote, you might as well pick up and leave. Like if you shoot at a group, because from my experience, calling another one in after you shoot is very rare on eastern coyotes. Versus out west, guys will sit on stand and keep calling and call in 5 or 6,
Yeah.
even
Oh,
after
yeah.
shooting another one. You know what I mean? It's not as common here. And I'm not saying you can't do it.
Yeah.
I'm just saying it's not as common.
No, it's not as common. I've had mixed results with that. If I've called multiple coyotes in and they're together and I've shot and my caller switches over to Fox Bang and plays Pup Distress, I've called that coyote back in often. Now, calling a coyote early on stand, well, yesterday morning, called a coyote early on stand, first 3 or 4 minutes, killed him, nothing. I paid for another 20, 25 minutes. Yeah, calling a different coyote in from a different area, yeah, it's tough. Yeah, out west, man, it's another ball game. And those coyotes,
They're
we are
starving out there.
Yeah, if you're hunting around here too, you are hunting the hardest to call coyotes in America.
Yep.
The eastern coyote is, I don't care what they say, a lot more interaction with man. They've had to adapt and overcome a lot more. Western coyotes, you may call some coyotes out there in New Mexico.
Never even seen people.
Never seen a soul. Never heard electronic call in their life. New
Yep.
Mexico, South Dakota, Nebraska, Texas. There's some coyotes in Texas, especially West Texas, that have never heard an electronic caller. Probably less now, but exactly. You are calling in this area some of the toughest coyotes to call in North America for sure.
Yep.
And can still be successful.
Yep.
Absolutely.
And on that subject, running a suppressor does help with
It
that.
does.
Because if, that sound, a suppressor can take that sound down to maybe a few hundred yards.
Yep.
Instead of without a suppressor, you just wiped out a few miles.
Yep.
Especially if you're hunting a property that has multiple acre or multiple stands that you want to go to. And what we mean by stands is the spots that we want to sit and call, where you hunt one field and then 300 yards away there's another field you want to hunt. If you run a suppressor and you shoot one off that first field, you still got a chance to call in one
Right.
at the next field.
Well-
but if you don't, you just ruin
Right.
the whole
Right.
2-mile radius.
Especially at night where those coyotes are on their feet and can
Yes.
be anywhere.
Yes.
In the day, when you're day calling and coyotes are bedded and here, in these pockets of timber, well, that's out the window at night. They're on their feet moving through all those open areas that they're used to moving through. I can't tell you how many times, countless times, we've tried to get into the area to call at night, scanning, walking in, and either killed a coyote, just walking in to get there, or have bumped a coyote on a place that we were, barely coming over rides, wanting to call this field. There's coyotes already standing in it,
Yep.
That's a lot harder. But, yeah, exactly. You could be calling this field. There's literally nothing but grown-up fence line between you and the next field. There could be coyotes in it, standing there hunting, that hear you call. But that's another reason why I run the Fox Pro. I like the Fox Bang has – what that Fox Bang is when you shoot, the concussion of your gun sets the collar to automatically play a different sound.
Yep.
And I have mine set to Pup Distress, and it has either stopped a coyote that was with another one,
Yep.
or at least maybe made them,
Slow down enough
slow
where you
down
can get
just enough for
another
another
shot.
shot, or
Yep.
maybe they circle back around. It gives them something else to think about for just a split second.
Yep.
A lot of
Definitely. That has helped on when you're calling multiple coyotes in at
Yep.
a time. I've definitely had it slow them down or stop them enough to get another shot
Yep.
on one.
If you're
Yep.
running a suppressor, you need to set that Fox Bang on the most sensitive high setting, but it's very effective.
I will. That is one thing, and I honestly I didn't really even notice it until we're talking about it. But mine don't hardly go off anymore.
Yep.
Because of my suppressor.
You need to set it. There's
know.
a low, medium, high. Set it on high, and it's the lowest setting. Yeah. But yeah, I had to figure that out too when I got the old 300 on the 223. But hey, here's the thing about predator calling down here though. The opportunities are endless. We've got
They are.
plenty of coyotes. Okay, we've got lots of coyotes, lots of predators. Most landowners that can trust you don't mind you killing them, and
They want you to.
they want you to.
Like we have customers mainly because they're comfortable with us and know us
Mhm.
that they'll come in here and be like, man, I wish y'all would please come
Yep.
kill some coyotes at our place.
And it's fun.
And it's a blast.
Hey.
And you can do it year round now.
Right.
That's
Hey,
the thing.
oh, yeah.
Year round. So when you're the avid hunters that like you're not big into fishing.
Right.
In the summertime, that's when I spend my time fishing.
Right.
You know, trout fishing, stuff like that. But for you, somebody that doesn't fish, that gives you the opportunity to still hunt.
Oh, yeah.
In
I
the
love
off
it.
season.
Hey, man,
you know?
I'm a little bit weird. I'm a little bit touched in the head, I know. But when I shot that coyote yesterday morning, it was just like I killed a good buck.
Yeah.
I mean, I got a charge from it.
I honestly enjoy predator hunting probably more than anything else I do in the state of Arkansas.
Yep, I do too. Now, don't get me wrong, I enjoy killing a good buck too. But predator calling is just one of those things I love it, man.
I like the action.
I could sit here and talk about this all day.
Yeah.
And I know I've probably bored some people, but come in the shop, talk to us about it all. Not only just from gear and things we use. And like I said, maybe we'll do a pack, a gear dump review on our pack sometime. That'd be hopefully interesting. But come in and talk to us about, you got questions about predator calling, predator hunting. I by no means claim to be an expert, but I've wasted a lot of hours of my life. Not say wasted. I've spent a lot of hours of my life doing it, so I'll be glad to help anybody I can.
And we're probably going to expand our predator hunting section and try to carry some Fox Pros and stuff like that. As predator hunting is getting more and more popular, we're going to try to carry some stuff like that in the store,
Talking about decoys, most of the Fox Pro collars now have a little small decoy attached to the collar, and that's all you need. All it is literally
something to catch their
attention.
It's
a spring with a little bit, big, long, heavy-duty spring with a little bit of tuft to look like a bird or rabbit fur. It's just movement. That's all it is. You don't have to get carried away. But I do suggest everybody carry a decoy, and they don't take up hardly any room to carry around. But all right, man. Well, it's been fun. This is a topic I've wanted to talk about and touch on for a long time. Like I said, I could talk all day about it. I won't bore anybody else with it, but hopefully it was. Hopefully you guys learned something, or at least got some insight on maybe a different view of how maybe I predator hunt versus some other people. Daytime calling, I'm going to say, get close to your cover. Nighttime, watch that wind.
Yep. And by no means we claim to be the experts on this. We're just giving you our opinions and what we personally used and stuff like that. And if you have any questions, we'd love to see the comments or message us or whatever. And, we're still learning at this podcast deal. So if you have any suggestions or stuff like that, we'd love to hear them. And we're looking forward to the next time we see you.
That's right. Come see us at the shop.
Yep.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for listening.